right, so I got a few questions here that we're gonna.
Was there anything yesterday that I didn't clarify that somebody asked about or anything like that? Or is it you just want to jump to the new questions?
Yeah, there was a question yesterday that I forgot to ask, and it was a question that somebody had sent in, and it was basically saying that if a couple has divorced and I guess
we addressed it.
Well, no, let me call it back this time.
Okay. Okay.
If a couple divorced, and then I guess at at some point, not too far after that, one of the two is basically saying, well, no, we're still married. Like, basically, how do you go about proving that, or what steps can you take? I mean, I'm sure it probably differs whether it's the man or the woman who's making the claim, but like, there was like, when you're in a predicament like that, if a brother says, I divorced you or whatever, and that time has passed, and he's like, well, no, I didn't, and you get what I'm saying? Like, how? Well, that's what do you got to do to rectify that?
That could be a class in itself, the proper way to marry and the proper way to actually divorce. But it's also it really, and you'll be surprised, man, that a lot of people, the Muslims for years, man, do not know the proper way to actually how to get divorced Islamically, right? Case in point, brothers may just say, I divorce you when they get angry, and not knowing that the divorce at that particular time may have been talaq bid'i, when she has divorced her at an improper time. Maybe they have already, so the proper way is, if a man wishes to divorce his wife, it has to be at a time that he did not have intimacy with her during that time period, right? And amongst other things. So therefore, if one of those things are present that he didn't do that, then it's permissible for him to mention divorce. And you have brothers that'll say, I divorce you, which is also bid'ah, mentioned it 3 times in one sitting.
Yeah.
So a lot of different things. Anyway, I don't put it how this also shows the importance of why you should have witnesses in marriage. And you should also have witnesses when it comes to divorce. Why? Because then, even if as a human being, what happens is, unfortunately, a lot of us, when our emotions run high, right? Nobody divorces their wife when they're happy, or no sister asks for a khullah when she's happy, right? But what happens is emotions run high, and then afterward, I miss her, this, that, and the third. Well, no, I already divorced you. I was angry. They start going fatwa shopping and all of this stuff, trying to find a sheikh who's going to get them out of their situation. So, having said that, again, that's why it's important. That's why it's important for brothers and sisters as well to be cognizant of the actual process of how to divorce, and the importance of having witnesses if he pronounces divorce, for him to also have witnesses to bear testimony that he did divorce his wife. So if he has a slip of the mind or whatever that he didn't divorce her, then brothers like, nah, I remember that time you did do such and such. And again, unfortunately, the way the state of the ummah today, man, a lot of people, unfortunately, this is like a game with a lot of people when it comes to marriage and divorce. I didn't do that, I did do this, or I was just joking, I was upset, or whatever. So anyway, yeah. So to answer the question in a nutshell is the importance of having witnesses involved in marriage and also in divorce. A lot of people feel they have a tendency, a marriage, we have a secret marriage, we can have this, I need this one witness, I don't have to make 8 or 9 of it. And all of that is what is known to be talaq, which is basically playing around with the religion of Allah.
So you're saying that, like, if they arguing in the house, whatever, and the brother pronounces it, I mean, should the sister then be like, I need to get a witness or whatever, or get the imam on the phone, or get,
I'm not saying
Ali on the phone and be like, he just pronounced divorce, whatever, like, you need to be aware of that. When it happens, just countdown going.
Even in the Quran, and I kind of escapes me right now. وَأَشْهَدُوا ذَوَيْ أَدْلٍ مِنْكُمْ, and that you also bring justified witnesses or upright witnesses to bear testimony. The point is that it'll be impractical. It's not practical that if we're in the house right now and the brother's arguing with his wife that I'll divorce you, and then I can't divorce you until witnesses are around. But the point is that other people need to be made aware of that, right? So therefore, it'll keep people from playing around like, I didn't divorce, I did, because you have some people, unfortunately, they have divorced their wives so much, man, they're probably it's haram for them to be together, right? But then people, no, I was mad at the time, I wasn't mad, or this, that, and third, I forgot, all this other stuff. right? So the whole point is, this is why it's the importance of having witnesses and also possibly having contracts as well. You got people getting married without contracts, and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, that's the case. Right.
All right, let me ask you this.
So now we get into today's questions, right?
Yeah, I got some questions here. You want
Just shut up.
you want to go further into it? You can.
No, good. All right.
I just want to point out, like how you said earlier, rapid fire, rapid.
Just ask the question, brother. Just ask.
All right. Anyway, all right. So let me ask you this. This is something I'm curious about, and I notice this a lot, like in our, in our communities and whatnot. Now, it's not obligatory for somebody to go make umrah. Okay.
You want me? Is that a question or you're?
Well, as far as I know, so now if I'm incorrect, then you the sheikh. Even though you ain't got the big turban on today, you the sheikh. So you let me know.
Actually, the scholars, there's a slight difference of opinion.
Okay.
All right. So the scholars actually differ in that regard. So some of the scholars, they do say, from the Imam Ahmed, right? He does say that Umrah is obligatory, right? And then there is a hadith that kind of backs that up. But the discrepancy when it comes to that hadith is the people have they say, well, it's weak. It's not the case. But anyway,
let me ask this question because it might play into what I'm okay. Because what I was going to say is that a lot of times you'll see people that they've been Muslim, 5, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I'd have been on vacation to Vegas. I'd have been to the Bahamas. I'd have been to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. I've been everywhere.
Where?
Puerto Rico.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Please.
But I've never been on Hajj because Hajj $8,000, Hajj $10,000. I can go spend weekend in Vegas, whatever, only $1,000. I'll go down to Bahamas, $1,000. Like, so it's a much smaller trip compared to something for Hajj. But within this whole time they've been Muslim, they've never even been for Umrah, none of that.
Yeah.
So my question would be, is someone at fault for this? Like, is this a sin on them that every year I'm going on vacations, I'm going to Disney World, I'm going here, there, whatever. I've never been, to Mecca.
Well, I'll answer that with a statement of one of the companions, by Ibn Abbas.
Okay.
Now, this statement, let me explain the statement.
Go for
after I say it. It's going to sound harsh, and it's going to sound, how can he say that? But let me explain the statement. Ibn Abbas, he says that whoever has the ability to make Hajj, whoever has the ability, that means financially, physically, all right, to get there and get back and so on and so forth, right? And his family is not in just disarray when he comes home. Bills are not paid and so on and so forth, right? But if he can make all those conditions, Ibn Abbas, he said, he said, whoever has the ability to make Hajj and he does not do so, it does not matter whether he dies the death of a Jew or a Christian at that point. To show the seriousness of it. Because what happens, and again, that doesn't mean that halas, a person who does not make Hajj is a kafir. That's why I said, let me explain it. And actually the scholars, they use this in a book called Targhib wa Tarhib. And basically you may have certain narrations that may seem a little strict, right? A little bit, like, wow, how can you say something like that? But they will use that to encourage the people, right? But this is a statement, nevertheless, this is a statement that Ibn Abbas made. And the way the scholars explain that statement is because how can a Muslim who is cognizant of the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who knows that Hajj is obligatory at least one time in his lifetime, financially have the money, physically has the ability to do so, how can, and we know that Hajj, the price is raised and so on and so forth, but how can a person who's aware of all of that can year after year after year after year after year avoid the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and yet still want things from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And he'll pay, because if you add up the Disneylands, you add up this, that, and the third, chances are you spent more.
Candy apple, elephant ear.
What?
I'm saying the stuff that you get when you go.
Oh, okay. But the point is, you spend all this money, right? And then yet a person has not actually made. Now, a person say, "Well, I want to take my wife as well. I want to take this, that, and the third." The obligation is upon you.
Okay,
Right.
but now Hajj is one of the 5 pillars. But I'm specifically speaking about Umrah.
So, okay, but we started talking about Hajj.
Okay.
So now going back to Umrah, as the strongest opinion I was just mentioning earlier, the scholars actually differ upon it, but the strongest opinion is that it's not obligatory. Hajj is the obligation that a person has to make at least one time in his lifetime. But now, at the very least, let's say a person can make Umrah, right? And it's without exaggeration, even in 2021, we see all the different packages, but if you really wanted to, you can make Umrah for about $2,000, $2,500, right? And now it's even easier because with the visas, you can get it in the airport and so on and so forth. Point is that let's say a person has $10,000, right? And it's like, yo, if I make Hajj, my family's gonna be hurting a little bit financially, this, that, and third. But at the very least, himself, I would rather meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knowing that, yeah, I did something. I tried. You know what I mean? I went for Umrah. I at the very least, I did Umrah. I saw the Kaaba. I did this, that, and the third. Umrah has its rewards too. Let's not negate the rewards of Umrah, right? So Umrah has its rewards in themselves. It's not on the level of Hajj, obviously, right? But then again, you know, if a person doesn't have the financial means to make Hajj, I wouldn't rule out everything. There's other things that you can do. Make an Umrah. Make several Umrahs. You know what I mean? This year, every other year, $2,000, this, that, whatever the case may be, go for that. Because that's also going to be on your scale on the day on Yom Qiyamah. Don't just meet Allah, well, I couldn't make Hajj, so I just didn't do anything. You know what I mean? There's other things that you can also do. Now, again, you're not going to be held, Allah, Allah's not going to hold you spiritually responsible for something that's out of your control that you can't bear. So if a person can't make Hajj, at the very least, and you know, if he can make a Umrah or something like that, then let him do that. Because we also know from the Quran that any good that a person do, even if it be a mustard seed, right? He's going to get it. So how much more for Umrah? No.
Okay. So let me ask you this. This may flow into this a little bit. But now you got, especially here in the West, now you'll have a lot of sisters that, converted, reverted, introverted, whatever, to Islam. Okay?
Yeah.
And they may be the only Muslim in their family.
Right.
Or they may have one other Muslim relative, this, that, whatever. But now, point is, they don't have a mahram for traveling. Now, I would think that being that they don't have a mahram for traveling, so now this basically gives them that Islamic, pass, hall pass, whatever that, I didn't have the means to go because I didn't have the Islamic means to go. But on the flip side, would this sister here basically be confined to her city until she has a mahram to travel? I mean, and this may be fine for somebody who lives in Philly, New York, Virginia, DC, somewhere where there's a lot going on. Let's say sister accepted Islam, she lives in Bucktooth, Alabama. Ain't nothing around.
Out of all the names you could have came up with, Bucktooth, Alabama. Okay, anyway, go ahead.
But Bucktooth, Alabama.
Okay. Yeah, I got you.
So let's just say that she lived there. Okay? Or Horseback, Mississippi. One of them places.
Please, I got you.
You got what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Fatback.
Let's go.
All right. So, I want to make sure you understand the city.
I got you.
Yeah. So would this sister basically be confined to her city? I mean, she can't go nowhere. She can't go. I mean, whether it be for an Islamic reason, like a lecture where she can, get it online, or for just entertainment or pleasure. I mean, will she now be confined to her city until she marries, or until she has somebody who can actually travel with her?
All right. So there's several things. There's several layers to that question. So let's start with the first part. Specifically talking about going for Umrah or Hajj or that religious obligation. So you have the scholars, they'll split into two opinions when it comes to that. So the first opinion is with some of the scholars, they would say the hadith is clear that she shouldn't travel without a mahram. Some would add a caveat that it has to be the distance of a day and a night or a certain time frame, right? As is mentioned in the hadith. Now, even within that statement, the scholars differ in and of themselves. So again, so there's like two different opinions, but even in that one statement, some of the scholars will say that, well, is a travel of a day and night the same as a travel of a day and night today, right? And then some will say that doesn't matter, and so on and so forth. But that's just one point. So the first point is that some scholars will say that clearly she would not. I'm not saying that I agree with this opinion. I'm just giving you both sides. They would say that also counts as her not having the ability to go. She might financially have it. She might have everything else, but she knows that she has to have a mahram, right? Because on one occasion, the Prophet ﷺ ordered a man who was getting prepared for battle that for him to stop what he was doing and go and make hajj with his wife. So having said that, again, this is what some of the scholars mentioned. Now you have the other opinion, where some of the scholars from them, Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah, he says that if this woman is actually going with a trustworthy group of people, right, where there's safety and security amongst this group, then there's no problem in her actually traveling along with her. So it kind of boils down to what opinion you actually will go with. Now again, I'm not saying either one, or I'm not saying this one is stronger than the other, but Imam Shafi, he brings about his proofs and evidences about the women within their own city. They travel within, they did this, so on and so forth. The scholars respond to that and say, well, that was in the city limits, right? But you're talking about as far as traveling for a long period of time, right?
Yeah,
going
3-4 hour trip
to other
on a road,
right? On the road, right? Just anything could possibly happen. But at the end of the day, then the opinion is that some of the scholars say that she needs to have a mahram. She needs to have a mahram, and if she doesn't have it, that's going to remove the obligation of her actually going. So she's not going to be held liable with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right. So now we talk about actually her within the city limits. Everything has to be. I don't want to say. What I'm looking for is taken into consideration. Well, yeah, it will be a burden for her to not be able to get around, within her city. And some of the scholars mention that she's traveling within her city, then khalas, she doesn't need.
I ain't talking about the city. It's going out of the city.
Yeah, out of the city. So at that point, again, some of the scholars will say that no, khalas, she needs a mahram. Now, is she going to be held liable? Is this, that, and third, so on and so forth? Her condition, Allah knows best. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Rapid fire, brother. Hurry up with the rest.
I want to make sure I'm giving you some time, because you look like he's falling asleep over there, so I was just...
Well, yeah.
You awake?
Yeah, I'm good, man.
Okay. Let me ask this, because yesterday you touched on something where you say, about sisters. You mentioned something about the brother said, well, sister gave up her right or whatever before marriage. You think he was talking about like with the mahar and whatnot.
That it's not permissible for her to make tonight.
He has to give her something.
Right.
He has to give her something.
He has to give something. Well, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَآتُوا صَدَقَاتِهِنَّ نِحْلًا. Right, to give them the mahar.
So now, outside of that, when you have these other things that you say, like the husband's responsible for, X, Y, Z and A, B, C, whatever. Outside of, is it correct to say that basically whatever the husband and wife agree upon, as long as it doesn't go against Islam, that it's cool? So if you say, okay, well, it's your right for me to maintain you. However, I'm gonna be a stay-at-home husband. You got a PhD. You're gonna go out and make the bread. I'm gonna stay home and play, Y2K. You know what I'm saying, and make sure the grass get cut.
So she's taking care of everything.
Yeah. Now, if they agree to that before the marriage, I mean, like basically these responsibilities that are put on each person. So if they agree that I'm gonna forego these responsibilities or these rights, and
would agree to that though. But okay,
you don't know a woman that would agree to that.
I'm just saying. So you're saying that the husband stay home, he just don't do nothing.
Yeah,
and she take care of everything.
You guys. That's at a different level of game. You know what I'm saying? Where they start agreeing to that.
Lebes. All right. So at the end of the day, regardless of what they agree upon, the man has a responsibility that Allah has placed on him.
I get that.
Wait. So again, it's like, for an example, if we can get into, for example, marrying multiple wives or this, that, and third, putting certain things in the contract, making certain conditions, this, that, and third. Some of the scholars will say that, well, that's not a valid condition. Some conditions are valid, some conditions not. Saying that the woman has to take care of this and that the man doesn't have to do so. So we have to actually go back and look at the conditions of aqd, the conditions of marriage. we can't place a condition that goes against what Allah said and His Messenger said.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So so to start off with, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed the responsibility upon the men, as He says in Surah An-Nisa, "Ar-rijal qawwamuna 'ala an-nisa." And men are the maintainers and the providers of women.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they have a level of degree over them because of what they spend. Right? Meaning the men. What the men have spent out of their means. All right, you follow me?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So having said that again, the man has a responsibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed over him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are certain situations different? Yes. Some people, maybe the husband is hurt, maybe the husband is out of work right now and looking for jobs, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, some of the scholars mention the asl. The asl is what? Is that the man has to do what? To take care and provide for this woman.
Mm-hmm.
If she wants to, like, hey, I'm going to go out, I'm going to get a job and do this, that, and the third, again, she's not held responsible. She's not held liable, right? It's not obligatory upon her to pay for anything at that particular point. And that's just being honest, right? So let's say if they agree with that within the first 5 months of the marriage, right? And then she comes back like, man, look, I don't have to work. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that, right? And she wants her haqq back. She can do so.
Even though it was agreed upon before.
As some of the scholars mentioned that because the asl in the Quran is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered the men to maintain and provide for the women. That is the asl. And no one can make tanazul of that asl. No one can waive that asl. Again, if, like, for an example, let's say if a brother has, and some of the scholars mentioned that he has multiple wives, right? And one of them has agreed, like, I'll take care of such and such, or I'll give up certain days, this, that, and the third, right? But then she comes back later on and say, no, I want my haqq back. I want this, that, and the third. The scholars have mentioned that, yeah, she is allowed to ask for that, and because it goes back to what is obligatory in the first place. Right?
Okay, let me throw this out there, because sometimes, a lot of times you'll answer questions, and other people, not just you, and the answer to the question or within the wording of the question, and we've gone over this before. And within the wording of the answer, it'll be what the scholars say, the scholars say, the scholars say. And how they say, you can do, scholars for dollars or whatever. Like basically you can find a scholar that's going to say almost anything, or there'll be a view here or condition here or whatever. So I don't know what I mean. Like,
what is the rubric for everything?
Yeah, because I'm sure like some scholars have to. Scholars have to be on levels. I'm assuming. So you can't say, well, this scholar said this and this one said that. Well, this guy here has to be holding more or something. Otherwise, you could say anybody's a scholar. You a scholar, right?
No, I'm not.
You sure?
Yes, I'm positive.
How you know?
Because I know myself.
You said you graduated.
It doesn't matter.
You went to school.
It doesn't matter.
You speak Arabic.
It doesn't matter.
You're black and speak Arabic.
Okay, Abu Jahl spoke Arabic. Is he a scholar? No, he's for the people to help out.
Okay, so but you're not a scholar though?
No, I'm not.
He didn't go to Medina University.
I don't care where he went.
Okay,
right?
I'm just checking. Okay.
All right, so when she threw me off now.
What I'm saying is, you say scholars say, scholars say, scholars say.
So when it comes down to the scholars, right? One, why do we even refer to the scholars? There's several different reasons. One, the Prophet ﷺ himself, he said, "Ulama warathatul anbiya," that the scholars are inheritors of what? The prophets, right? So you have that. Ulama warathatul anbiya. So therefore, we have to refer back to the scholars. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, "Innama yakhsha Allah min ibadihi al-ulama." Those who truly fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the scholars, al-ulama. Even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to the scholars. So for a person to come and say that there's no rujur, there's no reason for us to go back to the scholars to understand their deen, that person himself, you should be very wary of what they're saying. Now, again, also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions what? فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge about the dalil if you don't know. So this is a constant for a person to refer back to someone who's more knowledgeable than them. That's number one. Now, how do we take the statements of the scholars?
Now, how do we know who is scholar? That's what I'm saying.
Quarterback shape. Hold on.
God, I went to sleep just now. Oh no, go ahead.
So, having said that again, I spoke about why we have to refer back to the scholars. Right? The second thing is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, how do we analyze the statements of the scholars? Right? Because we're just not going to take a statement from a scholar just because he's a sheikh. That has to be in line with something. And what it has to be in line with is what Allah said in the Quran, فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرُسُلِهِ. That when you disagree upon something, anything in the deen, right, then you return it back to what Allah said and His Messenger said. So, when it comes down to a person, Mujarrad Takharruj, if a person just graduates, does that make him a scholar of Islam? No, it doesn't. Right? A person can be versed into a person speaking Arabic. Does that make him a scholar of Islam? No. But it helps, obviously. Now, some of the scholars have placed certain conditions that a person has to meet.
And you go again, some of the scholars.
Can I finish my question?
So who make you a scholar?
Can I finish my question? If you let me finish, maybe you'll find out.
Right? Okay. I hope I'm find out because I'm taking notes here. We're gonna get somewhere. I want to know how you become a scholar.
So some of the scholars have mentioned, right?
I'm listening.
Right? There is certain conditions that a person has to meet.
Okay, tell you.
First thing is that he's well versed in the deen, right? He's well versed in the deen. Some of the scholars have mentioned it's not necessary that he has to be a hafiz of the Quran, but at the very least he knows he can make istinbat. He can refer you back to ayats, this, that, and third, and extract it. He knows how to use it in its proper place, right? So that's number one, right? He's well versed when it comes to the adillah, right? Some of them have mentioned that also clearly that he has to be he has to understand the Arabic language and he has to be able to speak the Arabic language. Why is that? It's not that he has to be an Arab, right? The reason being is because for you to truly understand what Allah is saying, what the message is saying, that you have to have some khalifiyah, some background in the Arabic language, right? Because if you just take one verse and say, well, I think Allah meant this, and so on and so forth, when it's clear that's not what's being said, right? Then also, he has to study at the feet of those who are more knowledgeable than him, right? Because how could someone who doesn't know anything teach you something? As mentioned, someone who doesn't have anything can't give you nothing, right? So now we get into all the intricate details, all right? Some of the scholars of the past, close to the students of the companions, some of them has placed stipulations such as he has to memorize a certain amount of hadith, right? He has to memorize this, he has to memorize this. Now, all these particular things are subjective, if you will, right? During that time, for example, a person had to memorize like 100,000 hadith, right, to be considered from some of the ulama during that time. Okay. Right? So, like Imam Ahmed, he has memorized more than that, actually. And I remember a narration where an athar, not a hadith, an athar, and the difference, I explained that yesterday, what the difference between athar and a hadith was, but they said that there was a story about Imam Ahmed that a man, and unfortunately, I don't know why he made that statement, but he told his wife that if Imam Ahmed didn't memorize more than 100,000 hadith, I would divorce you. Right? He placed his marriage on the condition of how many hadith Imam Ahmed memorized, which is pretty crazy. It makes you think that he really loves his wife, right? But anyway, the point is that he went to Imam Ahmed and he asked him, and he mentioned go home to your wife he said, so did you memorize? He said, did you hear what I said? Go home to your wife. But from the answer of being humble, he didn't mention it. So the point is that you're not going to find a hadith, or you're not going to find an author that if you meet this particular criteria, you are a scholar of Islam, right? At the end of the day, what I would say was really important for a person to be sincere. Sincerity trumps knowledge in a lot of different areas. And somebody may disagree with me, and I'll prove it to you how. You find various hadith, where even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He talks about He will punish some of the people of knowledge in the hellfire. For an example, you have the hadith where 3 types of men will be brought on the day of resurrection. And Allah mentions one of them was what? An alim. He was a scholar. And Allah will ask him, why did you seek knowledge? And he said, I did it for your sake, O Allah. And Allah will say, what? Kadhabs, you're a liar. You did it so the people could say you were knowledgeable. Faqad qeel, you got what you wanted. Right? You got the recognition. And then he'll be thrown in the hellfire. So again, even amongst the scholars, it doesn't mean that just because a person has reached balagh al-mansab mu'ayyan, that he reached a certain level of knowledge, that he's safe from the hellfire. You even have a person who will be going around in the hellfire collecting his intestines, and the people will recognize who this is. They will say, you are so and so and so and so who used to say such and such and such and such. How the hell you in hell with us? You know what I mean? So he would basically mention, I used to what? Order you to do the good and never do it.
Yeah.
And I used to order you to stay away from the evil, and I'll be the first one to do it.
Yeah.
So the point is that the issue of sincerity is always going to trump the level of knowledge that person has. For an example, you have various different ahadith for one companion, that which more beloved to him was recite Surah Al-Ikhlas all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so on and so forth. So again, when you get into the issue of who's a scholar, this and third, me personally, so long as a person is calling to the Kitab Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they can refer you back to the Adillah where you can find it, so on and so forth, then inshallah ta'ala study and take knowledge from that person. Now, is he a major sheikh? Is he a minor sheikh? Is that third? Is what he's saying correct?
Yeah.
That's what's really important.
So
yeah.
the ayah where it says to marry, more than one, 2, 3, and if you can't be, just and marry one. You know what that's at, correct?
That's what he said.
Exactly. So this proves my point that all of the criteria you just gave, you meet. So I'm going to consider you a scholar. Okay. So now we can move on. Well, you just everything.
Because in all seriousness, at the end of the day, a person
and you're humble, alhamdulillah.
And I'm not saying that from being humble or anything. One, an a'lam an-nas bi nafsi. I know myself better than anybody else, and I know my sins better than anybody else. Also, Abu Bakr Siddiq radhiyallahu anhu, he's also to report it has said, look, and I want everybody to understand the status of Abu Bakr.
Yeah.
Right. We know he's the first Khalifa. He was also the father-in-law of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best friend of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also someone that's mentioned that if you took the iman of Abu Bakr and put it on the scale, and the iman of the ummah, the faith of Abu Bakr outweighed everybody. So you have
heavy.
Right? It's heavy. Also, the Prophet mentioned himself that everyone that he told about Islam had some type of taraddud, some type of hesitation when it came to accepting it, except for Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, right? And we know the status of Abu Bakr, but even Abu Bakr himself, he said, "Lo kana az-dhunub ra'iha ma jalasani ahad." Subhanallah. He said that if sins had a smell, no one would sit next to me. All right, and we talking about Abu Bakr. So how much more for Abdul Wahhab? All right, all right. So having said that, again, in all seriousness, is not. I know. I have sat with scholars, and I know what that means, and I'm nowhere near that.
Alhamdulillah. All right, let's move it on. All right, let me ask you this, and inshallah you can bring something to back this up, as far as some delil or whatnot. Just straight up, how much of a sister can you see before you get married? Before you marry her?
Okay. So
you good?
No, this is the strongest opinion.
Okay.
We have to go to the difference of opinion.
Okay, strongest opinion.
The strongest opinion, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا. Right? That which is apparent from her. Right? So, having said that, what Imam Ahmed mentions is that basically if a person is interested in marriage, right? If he's interested in marriage, he can basically see that which her maharam, her normal, the males in her family normally sees on a daily basis. Right? So for an example, some scholars have added the hair being one of them. Now again, the different madhab is going to say different things. Generally speaking, that which seems to gather all the evidence, but generally speaking, Imam Ahmed, he says the hair, right? He says that which is up to basically the shin, right? And some scholars mention that which is up to to the elbow, right? So let's say, for an example, if a brother was interested in my daughter, if she's the age of marriage, and they come to my house for dinner or something like that, then my daughter, she comes out in, like, let's say Capri Sun pants, right? And what Capri Sun pants come way down here, right? Unless I'm forgetting something. But the point is,
those are Capris, but Capri Suns is a little drink with the straw.
Oh, Capri. That's what
Come on, bro. What flavor you like?
Whatever. The Capri pants.
Get out your boy's lunch.
And then her hair, and so on and so forth. So this is what the scholars mentioned. That obviously no tight clothing or anything like that. But this is what that her brothers and her father would normally see on a daily basis. So this is what was actually.
They said it's permissible.
Yeah, it's permissible for a person to see. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess
this shouldn't be like an everyday thing, though.
Yeah, and I guess it's like up to these people to determine at what stage.
Yeah, at what stage? Yeah, you know what I mean. But it shouldn't be like every time he comes to the house, she's like that. Yeah, because that's not his wife at the end of the day.
I got
you know what I mean. But for him to see Mara Maratain Yakfi, you know what I mean?
Okay.
1 time or 2 times less. Yeah.
Okay, cool. This might be something that can be a little, touchy or whatever, but recently I got this. I'm just laughing. I'm thinking you got brothers who I know some brothers they on this. I guess on a mission, and the mission is to normalize obedience. Is what they say, like to bring it back. So exactly, like to what level, I guess, or to what point is the wife supposed to be obedient to the husband to it, up to the point where it's like, okay, now you're being, oppressive, or you're being a tyrant or whatever else. I mean, because I've heard somebody say, well, if your husband says he doesn't want you to eat oranges, that you can't eat oranges anymore. If your husband don't want you, drinking 2% milk, you can't drink 2%. So I mean, because what he's asking or whatever is not against Islam. Well, if he says, you can no longer drink Pepsi.
But
So now so now where's this at from an Islamic perspective?
There's a difference between being obeyed and becoming a tyrant at one point, right? So we'll say this.
I get what you married. 1 second.
All right, so we'll say this. Let's talk about the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if you have a Quran, I want everybody to actually go to this. It's pretty interesting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Ar-rijal qawwamuna 'ala an-nisa," that men are the maintainers and the providers of women.
Where you want to go?
Right, and Surah An-Nisa.
Surah 4.
Right, the verse kind of escapes me right now. But the point is, and everybody is well aware of this ayah, that the men are maintaining the providers of women, and that if because of what they spend, they take care of them, right? Well, they have a right, they have a certain level over them, right? But if she is to do this, then the step is this, the step is this, the step is this, the step is this, right? But then Allah mentions that if she is to obey you in that regard, and then he ends the verse, for that do not basically, basically become a tyrant. But then he also mentions at the end of that verse, Inna Allah kana aliyan kabira. And as some of the scholars mentioned from them, Ibn Kathir, he says that this verse is a threat to every married man. This verse is a threat to every married man. And this is because Allah entrusted married men, entrusted them with his female servants. That you are the maintainer and provider of these women. That you are to do this and take care of them. And if they are to disobey you, and the man talking about minor disobedience. Yeah. They just totally, she's just becoming loose. Right? How
you say out of pocket?
No, it's not out of pocket, but it's more out of pocket at this point. Right? Or she starts to become promiscuous or this or all things. Then you just take these steps and so on and so forth. But if she's to obey in that regard, then do not basically keep it over her head. And then he ends the verse as Ibn Kathir says that I am her wali, and you have to deal with me. Inna Allah kana aliyan kabira. Aliyan kabira, Allah mentions his sifat, that he is the most high. Do not forget, I'm the one that entrusted you with her, and if you are to become a tyrant in that regard, then I'm her true protector, and you have to deal with me. So having said that, this is why Ibn Kathir, he says that this verse is a threat to every married man. So now let's go to the next step. As far as generally speaking, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says in Surah An-Nisa, he says, وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, and to live with these women in kindness, right? And that which is well known and acceptable, and as some of the scholars mention, amongst even the culture, right? Because if you want to be real, you're not going to find a hadith that stipulates that a woman has to vacuum, a woman has to cook, a woman has to do this, a woman has to do this. This is more culture based. Just like, for example, if you marry, and I'm not saying this, but if you marry a sister in Saudi Arabia, right? In today's time, and from the culture, it's not really known that a woman's going to be cooking every day and cleaning every day and so on and so forth. You got maids for that, right? I'll bake. Right? So the point is that these things are more cultural than anything. But if you have some brothers, they'll place certain conditions upon a wife that's oppressive. You can't talk to your father. You can't do some particular things. And so now also you have to go back to what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention when he said, with the Prophet mentioned that there's no obedience to the creation if it means I have to disobey the Creator. Right? So therefore, those type of conditions are batil. It's invalid. I don't care what the husband says, right? That she's never to obey him in that regard, right? Don't talk to your children. Don't talk to, once you're cutting family ties, don't talk to your father. Only talk to your father on Tuesdays. Only second and third. You're not a husband anymore. You're a tyrant.
Yeah.
You're a mini pharaoh, right? So at that point, those type of conditions is not to be obeyed. But as far as, again, if a person in his household, listen, I don't, at 9 o'clock, I'm turning off the internet. I'm doing this, that, and third. Then, it's something that, inshallah, they can come together and talk about and come to some type of, conclusion. But in those type of things, inshallah, she's to strive to obey her husband.
So, Sister Mary asked for clarification about is there a different, I think you said there is, as far as the different madhabs with the seeing the sister in the capri pants and up to the shin and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so there's difference of opinion. That's why I referred back to Imam Ahmed. I'm not going to get into all the difference of opinions. The reason being is because, again, a sheikh says something doesn't mean that we just take it because the sheikh said it. Nobody is above proof. I don't care who you are. Nobody's above proof and evidence. Every sheikh has to bring his dalil. Right? So yes, there is a difference of opinion from the Dhahri. They may say that something else. I'm not going to say what their opinion is. Abu Hanifa, he says that you can see just about this much, or you can't see this. Imam Malik, he has the opinion that you can't see the hair at all, right? And so on and so forth. But that which is what Imam Ahmed does, he brings actually proof that there were certain companions who saw certain things, right? During the time of marriage. So therefore, he says, well, this validates them as seeing the hair. This validates this. This validates
Let
that.
me ask you this, because
But to answer the question of Sister Mary, right, Maryam, is that basically, yes, there is a difference of opinion when it comes to that. You'll find, for example, the Indo-Pak, they're going to be leaning more towards the Hanafi background, right? So if you're interested in marrying a sister from that particular culture, or you are from that culture, then chances are you want to necessarily lean. And you're going to be basically subject to that particular madhab. Now, some of the scholars also have mentioned, from them, Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah, he says that if a person knows that he's going to a particular place and these people follow a particular madhab, right, and this muntashir is well known amongst the people, then it's not upon him at that point to become combative.
Try to enforce
them. Well, no, let me see the hair, let me see this, that, and third. Imam Ahmed said this, so on and so forth. You know what I mean? At that point, you're gonna do more harm than actually good. So it's just
or get jumped.
Right. Well, you're not gonna get married.
So yesterday there was a few things where you said this was specifically for this person, like with the wife of Abu Sufyan. So how do we know when these specific instances are for the ummah versus it's for a specific person?
MashaAllah, this is a good question. So some of the you say some scholars, but
well, because you just said, but you were just saying like, so some people saw this much, some people saw that much. So how do we know it wasn't particular to them?
Right. So what happens here, you have, especially the science of usul al-fiqh, where you actually study the text in detail, and in actuality, we take the statements of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam over his actions. And let me explain. Even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي الرَّسُولِ, that was the best example inside of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Scholars of Islam mentioned that the asl, when it comes to implementation, is that we take the statements of the Prophet over his actions. Because what happens is you have certain actions that he has done that's specifically just for him. But if he clarifies something, right, and he leaves it open. For an example, he said, and I'll give you a perfect example, مَنْ جَرَّ ثَوْبَهُ خِيَلًا لَا يَنْظُرُ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Whoever drags his thobe or his garments out of arrogance, right, out of arrogance, then Allah will not look at them on the day of resurrection. So actually, one of the women, they said, Ya Rasulullah, if that's the case, our feet will show, right? Because they understood that what he said, men, whoever does this, then what? So he said to let it go down a little bit. Then he specified. The point is that if you find a text that's vague, then that includes everybody, right? But if you find certain word in that text that you, or for you to do this, or for you to do that,
or by the name,
some of the scholars mention that perhaps then it goes out of the vagueness of it and it applies just to that person. Because the Prophet told Hind, he said, Khudi. He ordered her, take from him, right? That which is sufficient for you and your child.
So it's
specific. So some of the scholars mentioned that this was only for her. Only for her. Right? Not necessarily for all the women in the world.
I mean, his sisters be talking about going in their husband's pants pockets and whatnot because of this hadith here. So, so you saying they?
No, what I'm saying,
they transgressing.
I didn't say that. You said that.
we need to deliver.
But nah. So in all seriousness, though, that you'll have certain texts that's just, and it's a science behind it. It's not just something clear like that. But you do have some scholars mention at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does mention what? Why should everyone be ma'ruf and treat them in kindness? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says take care of them, provide for them. But if you're not doing that, then yeah, they implement this and so on and so forth. But you want to be very careful. It's basically study the wording itself. If there's something that's clear, that's vague and is open for everybody, then khalas. But if it's something that the Prophet specifically said, for example, Abu Bakr to do this, Umar to do this, anti, anta, so on and so forth. Yeah, keep saying.
The sister said she needed to be specific. Can she dig in her husband's pockets or no?
That's between you and your husband. I'm not saying to do that and completely knocking on my door. You know what I'm saying? But no, at the end of the day, her husband has the obligation to provide for her.
Okay, yeah, provide. But if she like, yo, I want these nice pair, Nikes. They just came out. You know what I'm saying? And he ain't gonna get them if I ask him for them. So you just go ahead and peel me off a couple off that stack.
May Allah be easy for you, sister.
That means you can.
Shouldn't do that. You should.
Okay, shouldn't do that. Okay, stay out of brother's pockets. They say, stay out of pocket. Stay in pocket by staying out of pockets.
Masha, I like that. I like that. That's for you.
I'll let you use that too.
Inshallah. Consider it stolen.
Yeah, write it down. Muslims don't steal.
Next question.
You can borrow. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and put them in there. Inshallah, we'll get to them. All right, so let me ask you this. I got a couple of ones on here. And so let me just ask you this. Women with the weave in their hair, permissible or no?
No, it's not permissible. You have the hadith that the curse of Allah is upon the one who has the extensions in the hair and the one who does it, right? So both of them are actually cursed. And we're talking about la'an. There's a difference between, which also, again, which is a major sin. What is a major sin in Islam? Let's start there. A major sin in Islam is something that's connected to either the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or there's a punishment that's mentioned,
specified,
it's explicitly in this life or in the hereafter, or it has la'an, it has a curse, right, connected to it. And what is la'an? La'an is, when you say that a person is cursed, what it means is that a person is removed from the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person is removed from the mercy of Allah. Like shaitan is mal'oon. He's cursed. He's removed from what? From the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now, as far as what is the hikmah behind it, a person can say, oh, well, the reason is this, that, and the third, deception, yada yada, boom. Allahu a'lam. Allah knows best. But you can come up with many different reasons why a person should or shouldn't do particular things. But at the end of the day, the hadith is clear that the la'an, the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is upon the one who gets the ascension, the one who does it, just like the one who gets a tattoo or the one who does it, and so on and so forth. Right?
Okay. And now the thing is,
so again, a person should now. What about the issues of wigs? This.
I was going there because the next thing is always okay. Well, what about the yarn? You know, I want to put yarn in my hair.
I mean, at the end of the day,
this is a form of extension, but is this
so? Some of the scholars have also mentioned when it comes to what is known as baruka. Baruka is a wig in Arabic, right? And actually, a lot of them, they say that it's not permissible, right? Now, some women may ask, well, what if? And and I know a few students may not necessarily agree with me in this regard. I'm aware of that. But some of them may say, well, what if I want to beautify myself, for my husband at night? I just want to look, whatever. And we all married, you know what I'm talking about, right? So, I want to have pink hair, I want to have yellow hair, I want to have this, whatever, right? So some of the scholars
or just hair, period.
Oh yeah, sister might be bald.
Yeah.
Right. She might suffer from. May Allah protect all of us. Might suffer from cancer, where hair's falling out. All right. So a lot of particular things. So some of the scholars have mentioned. I've heard personally myself and some scholars mention. They mentioned that in this case, perhaps it could be permissible, especially if she doesn't have hair, right, where she can actually put on the wig. Some scholars mention that there's no exception to the rule, right? And then some scholars mention that there is an exception to the rule, and they provide their reasons behind it. But
the stronger opinion is,
again, the person should stay away from it because the line is connected to it. The person should stay away from the line is connected to it, especially if she already has hair, right? She can dye her hair a different color. You know, they got dye that comes out, you can wash it out, and so on and so forth. So there's no need for her to wear a wig. But if let's say a sister suffering from breast cancer, right, where her chest is removed, some of the scholars have made it has said it's permissible. I don't want to say made permissible because you can't make something in the original Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But some of the scholars have said that it's permissible for her to get what do they call it? Implants, right?
Somebody told me.
Right, to get implants, right? Due to the fact of what, for her sake and her marriage and so on and so forth. So those conditions may be, if those are severe conditions, some of the scholars have mentioned it's permissible. But the asl in general is that a person should stay away from it. Why? Because the curse is connected to it. Right?
I just want to say that alhamdulillah, you know a lot about hair. I mean, like this. Alhamdulillah. So
I'm bald.
I didn't say. I'm just
okay.
I'm just saying. Alhamdulillah.
May Allah preserve your hair. I mean.
Okay, what about eyelashes? Would that be the same thing? You know, they got fake eyelashes nowadays. Would that fall under this deception thing? Or?
I don't know.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, let's go to the old natural. Comes from the earth. Smoking weed. It's from the earth, brother. It helps me with my pain. I mean, you just took a pill earlier today. You know,
that wasn't no weed I took.
I didn't. How you know what it was? I gave it to you.
Well, if that was the case, then you were held accountable to Allah.
Okay, well, it wasn't weed. But my point is, okay, you took a pill for your headache or whatever. Some people say, okay, well, I want to, weed is a whole lot. I don't know. I don't want to say healthier, but I probably have less side effects from smoking a joint than taking some prescription from some big pharmaceutical company. Can I smoke a joint? And nowadays, my doctor can prescribe it the same way he's prescribing Motrin or anything else. Okay. And if I take a Motrin, if I take 2 Motrins, I mean some stuff they give you, they say you can't drive, don't operate heavy machinery. I'll be out just from these pills. So if you say I smoke a joint, I'm gonna be dazed or whatever. I mean, what's the difference?
Play it. This is an interesting question. So let's actually start from the
joint. It's called a joint.
No, I'm not talking about that. But let's
the rolling paper. What you want?
Let me answer the question.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I'm gonna stand on.
All right. So, in regards to when it comes to just because something is permissible, let's do this. Just because something is permissible in your culture or the society that you live in doesn't automatically translate into that it's permissible in the deen. Mm-hmm. So for example, you hear a lot of people say, weed is legal in California, weed is legal in this particular place, weed is this, that, and third. So homosexuality, does that mean that we're going to marry men and so on and so forth? But that's my point. My point is start off with just because something is allowed in a culture or in a country doesn't automatically translate to mean that it's permissible in the deen. Right? That's number one. Number two, when it comes down to, well, this is from the earth. Right? Well, how do you make wine? It's also from grapes. Right? Or depending on what wine you're drinking and so on and so forth.
You know a lot about wine too, huh? All right, go ahead.
But the point is, that's also from the earth. But yet,
but it has to go through a formation. It has to go through some kind of transformation or something.
Wait.
All right, go ahead.
Let me quarterback. Wait.
You need something to calm you down, brother. How about some? Stop. Go ahead.
Shut up, I'll hit you the chair. You know what I mean? A lot of different things. Cocaine, this, that, or whatever the case may be. You can get a lot of different things from the earth, right? But if that's your argument for everything, that's a weak argument, right? So that's number two. So again, just because something's permissible in the culture or in the country doesn't necessarily mean translates permissible in the kingdom. Just because something is naturally from the earth doesn't mean that it's what that it's also that it automatically becomes permissible. So, are there benefits? Are there benefits in alcohol? Is there benefits in weed? Is there benefits? No one has disputed that, and that's not the dispute, right? Because even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attests to the benefit in alcohol. He says, "Yes, alun kana khamri wa maisa. قل فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس وإثم أكبر من نفعهما." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, right, Surah Al-Baqarah, that they ask you about khamr and maisa. They ask you about alcohol and gambling. Right? Say that there's a sin in it, and it's also a benefit for the people. So Allah never negated the fact that there's benefit in some of the things that is haram.
Okay.
Right? There's benefits in some of the things that is haram. Alcohol, there's benefits in it, right? And Allah even attests to it. So again, a person can't they start to make the arguments, well, weed, it makes me feel good, this and third, I'm just going to get the munchies, I'm just going to do whatever it is, right? So, again, we're not talking about just the benefit in it. Allah even attests to the benefit in some of the things that He's made haram. So now, those are 3 points. So now the next point comes down to, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions, وَإِثْمُهَا أَكْبَرُ مِن نَفْعِهِمَا. But the sin that you're going to get from this outweighs any benefit that you can ever bring, right? So, now somebody will say, well, that still doesn't necessarily answer the question. Is there any hadith that you can bring that says weed is haram? You're not going to find a hadith that says weed is haram. You're not going to find a hadith that says cocaine haram, crack is haram, right? But those things are haram.
Crack is whack.
But the point is, at that point, a person, any scholar that you ask, or student of knowledge, or any person who's well versed in the deen, they're going to bring you verses or ayats, or a hadith that are going to show you the harm of certain things. Right? It's going to be a vague answer, but you can apply these particular principles to that particular answer. For example, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "La darar wa la dirar," that there's no harm and there's no reciprocating of harm. Right? So a person can use that to say that for a person not to harm themselves, or to use anything that's going to harm themselves. Then you also have the verse in the Quran where Allah mentions, do not let your hands be, use your hands to throw yourself into destruction, right? So a person can use all the particular argument. It's always going to be a back and forth argument. And then also you have the hadith where, let's say, even if it was a shubha, which a shubha is a doubtful matter in the deen. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna halal bayn wa inna haram bayn wa baynahuma umur mushtabihat." That indeed the halal is clear and the haram is clear, and in between those are gray areas, doubtful matters. But he also specified whoever stays away from the doubtful matters has protected his honor, has protected his deen, and so on and so forth. So again, because taking all of those things into consideration, it's better for a person to stay away from that. Now, a person says, well, my doctor has prescribed it for me, medicinal purposes, and so on and so forth. Allah knows best. Yeah.
Hey, Rashid, you saying, is there a correlation between Khamr and Kimar in relation to the head?
Because the word Khamr, Khamr in Arabic is basically yughatti, to cover something, right? As the sisters, they wear what? A khimar. But so the scholars mentioned Khamr is basically yughatti al-aql. It basically covers the intellect, and it damages the intellect. So there is a relationship in the Arabic language between those two. I want to give somebody a principle. I want to give everybody a principle. Somebody say, oh man, Islam is hard, there's a lot of different things, there's too many rules, this and the third. Every legislation that Allah has made falls in one of these 5 categories.
5 categories.
Alright? And to help everybody memorize this, I want you to think about the word basic. How do you spell basic?
Starts with a B.
Okay.
A. S. I. K.
May Allah help you. Let's see, right? Okay. So you get the word basic. No matter, think about any legislation that Allah has cutting people's hands off, they steal a large amount, or this, that, and third, so on and so forth, it all falls within these 5. And this basically is the maqsad what I talked about yesterday, the maqasid of the sharia, the purpose, the intent behind rulings that Allah sent down. B stands for belongings, right? So if Allah has legislated that, yes, there are certain punishments for certain crimes that a person commits to protect what? To protect their belongings, right? Not stealing. A person steals, then what? In an Islamic country, right? Then what? A certain amount, then what? Their hand is cut off, and so on and so forth. So the people will feel safe. Their belonging, their wealth will what? Feel safe. So even though somebody may say, well, this is barbaric, this is that and the third, but there's a reason why Allah has legislated certain things, right? So now the A stands for what? Ancestry, right? Which basically is, this is why we don't do boyfriend and girlfriends in Islam. This is why you have to get married. If a person has multiple wives, the children, and so on and so forth, to protect that what? That nasab, that lineage. So, oh man, you Muslims are too strict. Well, again, any rule you can think of is going to fall within one of these five. So B stands for belongings. A stands for what? Ancestry. You have S, which is for security.
Security. Okay.
Security. Having a mahram. Oh, my brother, he's a third wheel. He owns my business. He's not a third. But no, he's there to protect you. That's your brother, right? Your father's there to protect you. Oh, my father, he throwing salt in my game. I want to marry the brother. I want to talk to him. This, that, and third. No, but there's a reason. Men know men. We run game, right? It is what it is. Not all of us. And what I'm saying, I said we, subhanAllah. But it is what it is. It is what it is. That no, seriously.
Okay.
Right? That is there to what? To protect these sisters. Right? So S stands for what?
Security.
I stands for intellect. Right? This is why you have certain things that's haram. You can't smoke, you can't drink, you can't do these particular things. Why? To preserve the what? The aql. Right? The intellect. And then C stands for creed. Right? So basically you may have certain things. Why don't we hang a dream catcher in the house? Why don't we put a horseshoe on the front door? Why don't those particular things? Why? To preserve the creed. It goes in, stuff is shirk. So what happened said that no matter what you think of, if you memorize the word basic, right? BASIC, if you memorize the word basic, no matter what legislation you could think of, it's going to fall within one of those five to protect the creed. And I know I kind of went on a tangent, but that's the point. Even when you consider, what was the
he was asking about the khimar.
Yeah, come on. So I answered that question already.
It's the same thing like with the aql and they call it what the guys wear, like in Saudi and whatnot.
Nah.
It's kind of like from the words.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
From the left. Okay. So let me ask you this. Some people might get mad about this. Birthdays. Celebrating birthdays.
Hey, is that your question or somebody else asked a question?
That's my question.
Well, give the people a chance.
Somebody got a question? Ain't nobody got a question. All right, go ahead. So while somebody's coming up with a question, which, the fifth one is the C is for creed.
C is for creed.
What does that mean?
You gotta touch the other side, right?
I know how to work my phone. This is Android. You got iPhone.
Well, team iPhone. You should get an iPhone.
I got this one.
Well, yeah.
The fifth is creed. Okay, so celebrating birthdays.
Celebrating birthdays. But yeah, we're ordered to follow who the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, excuse me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ, the best example inside of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? And also you have the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He mentioned, تَشَبَّهَ قَوْمٌ فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ, whoever resembles a people, then he's what? He's from them. Alright? And then you have a lot of other different things. When it comes to the issue of birthdays, are you going to find some people who are going to be mutasahil in that area, who's going to be lenient and say, oh yeah, you can do this, you can do that? You can find anybody saying anything. And this is why I talk about the importance of lining it back up with what Allah said and what the Prophet said. It's not known that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would celebrate his birthday, right? And in fact, there's a narration that mentions that he will basically do what? He will fast on this particular on Mondays, because this is the day that he was born on, and so on and so forth. So some of the scholars mention that I remember I answered that with a story. I remember I was in Medina and I asked the Sheikh this story. He said, "What are they celebrating? What did they achieve something? What did they achieve?
You've been alive for another year.
But who?
You're a year closer to death, but you made it through another year of life."
So he said, and that was his point. He said, "You didn't do anything. Allah did that for you. So you're going to celebrate by doing something that Allah didn't legislate." That's number one. And number two, he said, "How do you know if you're from the people of hellfire, people of Jannah?" So he said, "What is it to celebrate? To be thankful? Then you could, if you want to be thankful, then do something that the Prophet did, fast that day. You know what I mean, and so on and so forth. So again, and then also a person can look behind. He can study the history of birthdays, and find that there's some tricky aspect of it, right? As much as it's in our culture, it's this, that, and the third, whatever.
Because some people think it's not, even if I'm not celebrating a birthday, there's nothing wrong with, especially here in the West, my cousin's birthday, I'll say, happy birthday. Mm-hmm. Or another big one, happy Thanksgiving. I'm not celebrating, I'm just, it's my auntie. Happy Thanksgiving. We ain't even got time to talk about people to go by to get the plates and that's whatever. Oh, I'm just sitting at the table. I want the yams as in the other yam, candy yams and whatnot. Or I'm just going to get a plate, some turkey wings, this, that, whatever. I'm not celebrating, but I'm just going to get me a plate. Happy Thanksgiving, Mom. Happy Thanksgiving, Auntie.
Hey, again.
Because even if you say, this is even a little bit further, but some Muslims that do the Merry Christmas thing. Now that's just shirk.
Yeah.
Correct.
A person definitely shouldn't, make yuhanni'ahum. He shouldn't congratulate them on those particular things. Merry Christmas. Now, how should a person respond if somebody says, Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving, this, that, and third? Just you can be respectful. You ain't gotta say nothing back. All right. Now, if you want to, I don't celebrate those. That's what you do. But
my name is Muhammad 45.
But at the end of the day, sticking with the topic of birthdays, we know that this is not something that the Prophet himself did, right? This is not something that's known amongst the companions or what have you.
I'm going to say I got to get the yams. He's talking about the candy yams and the collard greens and all that good. Well, go ahead, I'm sorry.
The point is that at the end of the day, that these are not certain things that was known by the Prophet or his companions. And rather, we know we have two things that we have been given, which is the Eid al-Adha and the Eid al-Fitr. So therefore, we restrict ourselves to that, and we just leave it like that. And a lot of people say, well, the rest of the world does that. That's not necessarily true. There's other faiths who don't celebrate birthdays. Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate birthdays, right? Unbeknownst to a lot of people. And they're Christians. They're a branch of Christianity. And there's other faiths as well that don't celebrate birthdays. But I remember I used to study this in detail, but there are other faiths who also don't do it. So don't feel like you're ostracized or we're the only people who don't do that. That's not necessarily true. Even if you was, so what?
Yeah. And this may hurt some people's feelings, but that also go for anniversaries. So am I sinful if I buy my wife something on an anniversary? It's our anniversary, baby. He go, a taco. Am I sinful?
You might get slapped. You don't know about sinful. What the hell is that? Wife a taco?
She might
embarrass you guys.
Don't judge. Okay. But what I'm saying is, if I get her something, let me get this right here. You know what I'm saying? If I buy my wife a tape measure, happy anniversary. Am I sinful?
Yeah, I don't know why you met. What happened? Go to Taco Bell for anniversary.
I said taco. I didn't say Taco Bell.
All right, whatever. But
they got these good tacos somewhere up there, up north. They really big tacos. Anyway, can you get what anniversary? Can I buy my wife something for an anniversary?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Anybody got any questions here about anything that we've been on here? Any questions I'm gonna ask to the
brother
Shake? To the Shake brother.
Milkshake Shaky. I'm not a chef, man.
Okay, to the brother.
I'm not a chef.
Okay, anybody want to ask the brother any questions about anything, feel free. The floor is open. Our brother Abdul Wahhab, who graduated from Medina University. Can you real quick just go over those credentials again for the people who came in late, just so they know they're not talking to somebody that gave $5 to come inside?
First of all, you didn't give me $5.
I know I didn't.
I'll tell you. So I spent some time overseas studying in different countries. I spent a year in Kuwait. Spent 7 years in Kuwait. I studied with several different scholars. I can go through it. You want me to go through the names of the scholars I studied with?
I'm sure anybody gonna recognize. You can. If anybody has any questions, go ahead. But go ahead.
I'll get the general. If anybody has any, I'll get the details later. So I studied with several scholars when I was in Kuwait. We also started studying the Arabic language at that particular time. Then I got accepted to the University of Medina. I studied there for 7 years. At that particular time, anybody who goes to the University of Medina, everything's in Arabic, nothing's in English. So you have to be proficient in Arabic by the time you graduate. To even study, obviously. So it's 2 years, and then you go to one of 5 colleges, which is either the College of Quran, which you have to be a Hafiz to actually enter that college, or you got College of Arabic, further your studies in Arabic, the College of Dawah, which is basically Aqidah, which is the belief system, and also the College of Hadith, or the College of Sharia, which is basically fiqh. So I went to the College of Sharia, and alhamdulillah, I graduated. Basically one of the top of my class, alhamdulillah. And then also, after that, I spent some time in Morocco as well. Mm-hmm. And I studied also in Morocco, and then alhamdulillah, I came back to America.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There was a question about, like, do you have a page or a YouTube channel, somewhere where people can, go and, listen to you talk without me, basically?
Well, I ain't talking with you. It makes you feel comfortable.
I know, but I mean, both days you was late, so I don't know if I'm gonna invite you back again. We'll see, inshallah. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I might.
So anyway, I do have a YouTube channel. I'm not as active on it as I should be, but it's Pen to Pad Academy. The number 2 Pen to Pad.
PEN number 2
Pad PAD Academy. Mm-hmm. All right, or you can just type in YouTube Abdul Wahhab Faulk, and you'll find me there. Mm-hmm. I think I have an Instagram. I do have an Instagram. I don't use this stuff, man, like that. But it's also Pen to Pad Academy, and then the number 90 on Instagram. On Instagram, yeah. I don't have anything else, no other social medias outside of that.
So let me ask you. Well, let me just state this, and just for the audience there.
Was there a question?
Yeah, this is Pen to Pad. It said, does a sister have to be obligated to a struggling husband?
Oh,
like if her husband is struggling financially, do she got to stay around? If she don't want to be a ride or die, if she was just down for the ride, but now she ain't trying to die, you done lost your job. You know what I'm saying? You had a good paying job. Yeah. You got off of work. You stop at the gas station. Now you out in the parking lot trying to climb up some crates and whatnot, and you fall and bust your back. Now you out of work.
Damn. I don't think that was a question though.
It was a question.
No, I think it was, but I think you read it wrong. Let's go back to it.
It says.
Like you just got to say.
Okay. Let me.
Right, it's right there. Go back.
Okay. Is a woman obligated to help her husband who is struggling financially? Okay, help her.
See, exactly. You.
I mean, sister she want to be out anyway. So I mean, just
don't put words in the people's mouth. Just ask the question.
Is she obligated to help?
So inshallah ta'ala, it's better for her to assist her household if she actually can. Once he gets back on his feet and everything like that, then that's fine. But think about it. If you don't help at that particular point, and he's struggling, why? Maybe he got hurt on the job. Maybe he lost his job and found a lower paying job, or whatever the case may be.
Or maybe she putting him in the poorhouse with all the stuff she want.
That can be a situation too. But at the end of the day, it would help at that particular point. You know what I mean? You also gotta look at the society that you actually live in and all sort of stuff. But if she, alhamdulillah, if she helps, that's better. Because if she doesn't help, then they're gonna be struggling even worse.
Yeah. So one thing I did want to say is that the brother told me that, and this I found this to be quite astonishing, that how long has the University of Medina been around?
You can Google it real quick. I'm probably gonna miss it. It's like 1960 or something like that.
So, by the way, he's a mathematician. He's really good with math. 2 + 2, real quick. All right, put me on the spot. Anyway, so for the 60 years or whatever that the University of Medina
has been more than 60 years.
You said 1960,
like 1950.
Okay, so go ahead and Google it. So anyway, for as long as this university has been around, for all of this time, there's only, you say how many graduates from the United States? About 50, 60, something like that.
Yeah. So keep talking.
Well, I mean, this I found that to be very incredible that for a university to have been around for so long. I mean, of course, there's graduates that come from other places around the world or whatnot. But
all right, September 6, 1961.
Okay, so it's coming up on a birthday. Alhamdulillah. We don't celebrate birthdays.
On Labor Day, right?
We don't celebrate birthdays. But for the university to have been around for so long and for so many people
60 years, yeah,
to have come through that university. That goes to show how hard it is, to let me see this, how hard it is to to make it through because there's only been like 60 graduates.
Well, can I elaborate on that?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So, as far as American graduates,
Mm-hmm.
all right, from the University of Medina, there has obviously been a lot more Americans who have applied and got accepted, but the only ones that have graduated are, it's American graduates. And we're not talking about the Arabic programs. The Arabic programs too. We're talking about going through the whole program and graduating. Right? It's within that about 60 or so. It's not a lot. But that doesn't mean, and I want to be fair, right? A lot of people, they come with different circumstances. Yes, the university is hard in a sense. It's a test because you're away from your family, but in and of it by itself. And then you have the university, as far as the studies concerned. Yeah, it is challenging, but also it used to be a lot more challenging and harder for the brothers who preceded us at the particular time when they were studying, right? For an example, it's well known, and any student who has went to the University of Medina will, if they're being honest and not being disingenuous, they would say that the hardest college is the College of Hadith. Because each semester, along with memorizing Quran, they also have to memorize, by the time they graduate, at least like 3,000 or 4,000 Hadith by the time they graduate.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of Hadith. So, I think it's like 200 a semester or something like that. Now, in the College of Sharia, we don't have to memorize that many Hadith, right? When it comes to that. So, yeah, it is hard in certain areas. But again, everybody has different conditions. Some people had family that passed away. Some people, their wives, was a test. It was a test for them to have his wife over there. She's coming from a country where she can do a lot of different things. She has freedom. She can go outside.
Yeah.
But now you're taking her and putting her in the heart of Medina, and she can't go anywhere while you're at school studying all
But
that.
alhamdulillah, I mean, but it's still a testament to have one graduate a year on average. That's pretty amazing.
In a sense, yeah. There's
You did pretty good for yourself.
by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have, and it's only by the mercy of Allah. I mean, I have learned, alhamdulillah, I have learned a lot, but I've made a lot of mistakes and also learned from the mistakes that I made. So, alhamdulillah. But it is, and that's why, I'm not really hard upon other students who graduated like that, and they make a mistake in certain areas, or they say
I can't see all the questions here.
They say certain things, right? And they'll say, "Oh, this graduate is this, this graduate is that," but that doesn't mean every graduate is always going to be right. That doesn't mean every graduate is a scholar, right? It doesn't mean every graduate is this and that and so on and so forth. So we got to be careful when we say that. I mean, alhamdulillah, yeah. There's another question.
Is it permissible for a man to leave the home for days at a time because he's angry, like he's abandoned in the bed?
No, he shouldn't do that.
Yeah, but is it permissible?
So
we ain't talking about shitty. I mean, he the man of the house. Can he get up and go if he wants to?
Well, I think again that requires a particular setting. You can't give a generic answer to something like that because it was known that Ali ibn Abi Talib, when he would get upset, which is how he got his nickname Abu Talab, when he would get upset with his wife, and his wife was who? Who was Ali's wife? Who was Ali's wife?
Ali who?
Ali ibn Abi Talib, the cousin of the Prophet and the son-in-law.
Oh, I don't know.
Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he would actually get upset with her, it was known that he would go out and lay down in the masjid. And on one occasion, he was laying down in the masjid and he had a whole bunch of dirt on his side. And the Prophet ﷺ saw him and he said, "Ya Aba Talab, O father of dust." All right, as a nickname. That became his nickname.
Shade, huh?
Well, it wouldn't be respectful to the Prophet ﷺ, but he said, "O father of dust."
I didn't get that.
You know what I mean? And that became the nickname of Ali ibn Abi Talib. The point is that perhaps if he gets upset, he leaves, but it's days that are on out and this, that, and the third. Allah.
How many times can a woman ask for a khula? It's like unlimited, right?
It's unlimited.
Unlimited, like Verizon or something like that. Unlimited. She can ask for as many times she wants.
That's a lot of times. But
I mean, free nights and weekends. But if she asks for a khula and he gives it to her and then he takes it back, like that.
Whoa, no, he can't take. So whoa.
Oh, okay, well, let's get it, baby. Let's get it. But she can ask for. I mean, he can grant as many as he wants, right?
So wait, hold on. Let me put it back.
All right, because I gotta write this down now.
So a talaq. When we talk about divorce, it's in that right of the man, the hands of the man. And I want to explain this because a lot of people get this misunderstood. They get misconstrued, understood, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mistake.
يطلقها, and he divorces her, and he can take her back.
Mm-hmm. You talking about if he pronounces it?
If he pronounces
Yeah.
it, he can take her back without it. Let's say, and because some people, you're reading the books of fiqh and they don't really explain it, that he can take her back without her wanting to go back.
Mm-hmm.
But why do they say that? And let me explain for everybody. Emotions get high, right? It's because he's the one that initiated the divorce. So chances are she didn't want the divorce to begin with. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to stay married, but he's the one that initiated.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, he has the right to say, you know what? I was bugging. You know what I'm saying? Let me, let's get back together. So he has the right to do that. But now let's say, hold up, brother. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be with you.
Mm.
The man is restricted to 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
That divorce is 2 times. This third, after he does that on the third occasion, if he divorces her, he can't take her back until she marries someone else, a real marriage, not one of these, you know what I mean, side joints. But and then if that doesn't work out, he can take her. And if that doesn't work out, then he can go back to her. She can go back to him. So as for a khula,
Time. That from my understanding, that marriage, when she marries somebody else, that actually has to be consummated. Is that correct?
Yeah, it has to be consummated.
Okay. So it's not no, I married you and
let you go.
Yeah.
No.
It has to be consummated.
As is mentioned,
They gotta be real.
And as is mentioned in one hadith, and this is the statement of the Prophet. This is not Abdul Wahhab.
Hey.
This is what Prophet mentioned, that a woman actually wanted to do that, and he mentioned, "Hatta yudhuq usayratak wa tuzhuq usayratuhu." No, you can't go back until he tastes your honey and you taste his.
Yep.
It's mentioned.
You said what?
No, now you won't pay attention.
You said something about honey.
Now you won't pay attention. But it's mentioned within
yams.
within that hadith.
Okay.
Right? It's mentioned within that hadith. Until he tasted the honey and you tasted, he can't go back to the previous husband. So that marriage has to actually be consummated, and it has to be a real marriage. It can't be one of zawaj muhallal, which is basically she marries her brother because I miss fulan, right? No, she actually wanted married. But now we're talking about khula.
Yeah, what a lady asked for.
Yes. So some of the wisdoms behind as to why a woman is not restricted to how many khula she can ask for.
Because she's emotional.
Some of the scholars mentioned because of the emotions of the woman, right? Where she may be. Why is it? I don't even know. Don't throw me off because it's gonna throw me off.
Go ahead. She asked for it, huh?
All right. So because she could be emotional, she gets mad. I don't like your beer today. Is that whatever it can be, right? And more seriousness, but she wants to get out of the marriage, so she can ask for khula. If he grants it, that starts the process. The benefit too behind this is, subhanallah, she can ask for khula hatta fi haydiha. She can ask for khula even when she's on her menstrual cycle. A talaq, a man can't do that.
He can't pronounce it while she's on her menstrual cycle.
And he can't pronounce it at the time that he's already had sex with her.
Yeah.
That's oppressive to the woman. Man has sex with his wife, and then the next day he wakes up, man, you know what, you divorced. Right? That's talaq bid'i. He can't do that. So the man is confined to all these restrictions. The woman is not confined to all these restrictions due to the fact that, one, it is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If she's being oppressed, even if it's at a time they already had sex, even if it's at the time of her menstrual cycle, to get her out of this situation.
Yeah.
A talaq is 3 waiting period, 3 menstrual cycles that she has to wait through. A khula is just 1. And this only proves istibra' ar-rahm, that she's not pregnant, because then that will prolong the iddah period. Yeah. So, 1, yes, a woman has an unrestricted amount of time, but if he grants it, she has to return back the dowry. When she returns back the dowry, but can the khula actually take place prior to her return of the dowry? That's a whole other class. But the point is that if she returns the dowry, let's say the dowry is $500. All right, just for an example.
$500. What is this at?
$5,000.
Oh, yeah, it was plenty.
Whatever.
Okay.
500,000, whatever it is. All right. So if she said, "Look, man, I only got
expensive honey, brother."
It's a lot. Yo, throw me off.
Oh, okay.
So if she said, "Look, man, I got $500, take it," boom, he takes it. Whole is over with. So now he says, "Oh, 2 weeks down the road, he's like, damn, you know what I mean? I miss her, so on and so forth. She missed me. Yo, hear the money back. La, what they have to do at that point, la but min aqd jadid or mahr jadid. They have to get remarried and also with a new aqd. I mean, with a new mahar, right? It's not just he granted the khula and then now, yo, we was in our feelings last night. You know, even though I granted it, we still good. No.
All right, so let me go through this just for clarity.
Okay.
The sister, she's on her cycle, and she asked for a divorce, and she's expected to be. It's Friday. She's expected to be over Sunday, and she says, "I want a divorce," and he grants it. Says, "Okay, you can have the divorce." She now has to return the dowry. You know, which is the 500,000. She got to return the whole thing.
That's the usr. Wait, that's the usr that she returns back what she was given. But is it permissible for her to return back that which is less? Yes.
Okay.
And if he agrees to that,
and some scholars say
and some scholars say that it's permissible for him to request more. Now, where does that proof come from? You also have the verse in Surah Al-Baqarah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions female effect to that to be whatever she uses to relinquish herself from the marriage, right? To get out of the marriage. Because he left that vague, female effect to that to be whatever she used to ransom herself from the marriage. And the scholars mentioned that's open. The usr, all of them agrees that she gives back what she was returned. But can she give back less than that? Yes. Can you also ask for that was more? Yes.
I'm not talking about a Benz truck, man. You tripping.
Right.
So if the sister asks for the divorce and her period finishes on Sunday, and he says, "Okay, you can have it," and you know,
does that mean she's no longer married on Sunday?
No, she has to, and he says, "Okay, I want the whole 500,000 back." Okay, Saturday she go ahead and cash app him 500,000.
That's a serious cash app.
That's a platinum. That's cash app.
I wouldn't know about that. Yeah.
Okay. So she cash app it back. The second her period is off, it's done.
So yes,
because she gave back her period.
So in this case, some of the scholars mentioned that it's better. It's better that because it's a one menstrual cycle. It's better that she on that one. Maybe that one would not count. But for her to wait until she has another menstrual cycle. Some of the scholars mentioned nah. The whole point is that it's istibra' ar-rahm, that she's not pregnant. The mere fact she's on her menses, right, at that particular time on Friday, and then that Sunday came around, that khalas, you know, the marriage is over.
So the sister said, what about like a sister if she don't get her period?
So a woman who does not necessarily over here. Excuse me. You should have said that like 20 minutes ago. I was looking at you this whole time.
But I know I'm handsome, so I don't lie.
First of all, mashallah. You know you can get the iron to yourself.
All right.
So just be mindful of that. All right. So you threw me off.
The sister that don't get her period.
Yes.
No more.
The sister who does not have a menstrual cycle, then she's going to wait 3 months. She's going to wait. Basically, it's going to be 3 months. Her menstrual cycle is actually 3 months. But a lot of people, they'll say, well, you divorced after 3 months. No, there's 3 menstrual cycles.
Yeah.
So and women know this better than me, not every woman has her menses every month. It might be every other month. Right? So somebody might say, well, dang, brother, I gotta take care of this woman, you know, for that. Well, you was enjoying it when she was married to you, when she didn't have a mens every month. That is what it is. All right. So you gotta wait those 3 menstrual cycles until it's over. Now, however long that takes. But if she does not have a mens, she reached the age where she does no longer have a mens, then also there's that that she's going to 3 months. Now is that lunar months? Is that off? You know, this or that?
So I just want to understand this. You're saying that there's actually sisters who might get a mens every other month, and she only wants 500 for the dowry.
Next question.
I need to know, but these are the examples you gave. You got the knowledge. So only 500, and it's every other month.
May Allah guide you. Next question.
Any other questions on her? Or she's on birth control? Yes, that's the same thing. Because some alter, they might only get their mens, once every 4 months, but it's the same usr. If she doesn't have a regular cycle, then it'll be 3 months.
She does not have a cycle. But the women who are on birth control or something like that, where her menses may be delayed. If a mens is coming, then the ibra is what? Is
3 menses.
3 menses.
So if a mens is coming and she don't get her mens, but every 3 months, you got to wait 9 months.
As some scholars mentioned, khalas is 3, as Allah mentioned, is 3 menstrual cycles. Just like, for an example, if she wasn't getting it every 3 months, you was happy. You know what I mean? But now that you divorced and you mad, oh no, so it's 3 months now. It's 3 weeks. So on and so forth. Come on, subhanAllah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, the ibra is 3 menstrual cycles.
Okay.
But if she does not have a mens, then it's going to be what? 3 months. 3 months.
Okay. Any other questions? Anything you feel like we might have missed out on here?
I don't know. I wasn't know what I don't know.
She said that's a new wow. See, alhamdulillah, somebody's benefiting from it.
Alhamdulillah. Oh yeah. So again, what's the advice? Stay married. Yes.
Yeah.
Stay married.
No comment.
All right. So, but the brother has to. Well, again, the brother has to take care of his wife during this time. Yes, he does have to take care of her during this time. If it's not talaq al-ba'in and kubra, and I want to clarify that too. So it's cheaper to keep right. So talaq al-ba'in and kubra is that they reached the 3rd divorce. Right at that point, then they should be separated. All right.
But for our original question, if the sister requests the khula, and it goes on, and it goes all the way through, and they finally divorced. However long is that they finally divorced, and then they remarry again. Like that same process can go on unlimited,
forever,
unlimited. As long as she's the one who initiated and asked for it, and he granted it, that can continue to happen the rest of their life. Be just like you back in the hood, and you and boo boo back together and everything, and then not together. And
it's not again, and this is a mercy for the sisters, and it's a mercy for Allah knows His creation. And again, if we're not being sexist or anything like that, but Allah knows His creation. It doesn't mean that men are not emotional. Yes, men are emotional.
So does He take care of her during the khula, the time of the khula?
So when it comes down to the issue of a talaq, right? He has to he provides for and take care of during that particular time. That's why I was going to that talaq al-ba'in al-kubra, the major form, which is the 3rd one. It was irrevocable that he can't. I got you. I know it's talking about khula. Where at that point they're to separate. Now, brothers and sisters got to be cognizant of where they live at. You live in America, right? And the reason why I even bring that up is that sometimes both your names on the lease and a lot of different things. So now the brother says, "Oh, you divorced, it's on 3rd, you out the house." She kicks her out. Actually, you got police at your door, and so on and so forth. With both of your names on the the lease. And so your brothers have to, and sisters have to be cognizant of these also other particular matters. And she doesn't have a place to go. And I mean, don't forget rahmah, mercy. As the Prophet mentioned, "Men la yarham la yarham." Whoever does not have mercy will never be shown mercy. SubhanAllah, will not be shown mercy. So you have to take those things into consideration. And as for the issue of a khula, where the sister is returning her the dowry, returning a lot of particular things. During that time period, the scholars have mentioned, is that once he agrees to it and once he gives back the dowry, that's no longer his wife, right? So the obligation at that point is lifted. Well, as opposed to the other way around with the talaq, yes, he still has to take care of her. But as far as the khula is concerned, because it's in a matter of an agreement and returning back in the dowry, at that point the obligation, Allah knows best. Again, I'm not saying it's 100% correct. Allah knows best, the obligation is lifted.
And then if the sister forfeited all her financials, like you don't have to take care of me during the time of marriage. When it comes to divorce, can she be like, yo, run that back?
Of everything that you missed out on, type thing?
Yeah, if you're like, all right, you ain't got to take care of me. Let's say it's a polygamy situation, whatever, and it's like, oh, I don't need you to, pay my bills, this, that, whatever. I just need your companionship, right? A year down the road, y'all wind up getting a divorce, and she's like, oh, well, it was because earlier you said that she can go back in the marriage and say, nah, I need you to come back, even though we agreed on that. So at the time of the divorce, can she now say, yo, you didn't pay the X, Y, and Z the whole year we was married, run that back to me?
Why would that be the case? I'm not saying. Just because she's mad?
No, like if they're about to get a divorce. If they're about to get a divorce and she, relieved him from the financial obligation.
So
because you said before she can go back and say, let me have it.
Within that period, the obligation is what? That he has to take care of her.
No. She's saying, can you go back for whatever? We was married a year, 2 years, 3 years, and I didn't ask you to pay for anything. I relieved you of it. Mm-hmm. But if we're married, I can now say, now I need you to start paying that. So now if we're going to get a divorce, can I say, run me back for them
Again,
3 years?
Like, the divorce is...
Y'all sisters stop playing games.
All right, so the divorce... and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? But the divorce is that once he divorces her, we talking about divorce, not a khula, right? Mm-hmm. So once he divorces her, the obligations that he has, he's like, all right, fine. You want to divorce me? Then you got to take care of me while we're in this end period. Mm-hmm. Pay for this, pay for this, pay for that. That he's obligated to do so. Yeah. And once the is over, it's over.
But she can't retroactively.
But she can't say like, yo, we was married for 10 years. You know what I mean? I want alimony for the next. We live in California, so we been married for 10 years in the days. You got to take care of me for the rest of my life, type thing. It doesn't work that way.
I'm gonna say this: the brother, alhamdulillah, some years back did very, very, very good classes on the marriage and the divorce, and there's some really, really, really good classes on like the custody and whatnot, dealing with the kids. And it was very detailed classes, and he did the whole slideshow and had pictures and all of that. I mean, the artwork was questionable, but
it's good, man.
I'm trying to tell the people about what you did.
It's good, bro.
The artwork was questionable, but alhamdulillah, it was a very good class. I'll see if I can go back and find it or whatnot. But yeah, it dealt with all that: the marriage, the divorce, the mahar, the custody.
Inshallah, we do another one, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah, we do another one.
All right.
Okay, so if everybody's good, then the brother's about to fall asleep, so we don't want to hold him too long.
We gotta pray, and
we do gotta pray. You want to go get something to eat?
Yeah, I'm kind of hungry.
You kind of hungry? I got some bananas. I mean, you want to go out and eat?
I mean, why don't you get in the kitchen and cook me something?
I'll tell you what I feel about that. So I'm gonna turn the camera off. Yeah. All right. So, what's your bio? Do you have a page? You got a few minutes to run it down real quick. Your bio
again?
No, you just talked about when you went to school.
Yeah.
I mean, you was alive before you went to school, right?
You started the day I was born.
Do you remember that?
I don't think.
Okay, listen. The brother's from New York. You know what I'm saying? He walks around with no shoes on, literally.
Which is sunnah.
It's the sunnah.
Sometimes.
Okay, but most of the time you'll see him out and about. He don't have on shoes.
Why
so you're ashamed for practicing the sunnah?
It's like I'm in the masjid.
Did you have shoes on when you walked up to my house?
Turn the camera off for me.
Okay, brother don't wear shoes. You know what I'm saying? And from New York, he's supposed to have like some Timbs on or something, right? They walk around with shoes. You ain't got no Timbs?
I got Timbs too.
Do you?
Yeah, I got Timbs.
Officials? Okay, anyway. So yeah. So the brother studied overseas and, from New York, came back. Anything else? Oh yeah, he went to Morocco. He already said that. Anything else important? He's a mathematician. He got the brain up here when it comes to counting.
I used to be the senior Muslim chaplain in South Carolina.
Oh yeah, he used to be the senior Muslim. That Pen to Pad Academy. He used to be
the PEN, not PIN.
Yeah, PEN, like a pen. He's a senior was the senior Muslim chaplain at the Department of Corrections. I mean, the brother, talked to the Muslims on death row. Muslims been locked up 40 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is the brother that was, alhamdulillah, was handling all of that. Trying to get those brothers all kind of reading material. And how long did you do that? Department of Corrections?
For 4.5 years.
4.5 years. Dealing with the brothers and that's I've witnessed some of that. It's a very stressful work environment. I mean, and just dealing with some of the brothers. I mean, just people in the different situations and predicaments they're in. I mean, a lot of people coming in and becoming Muslim once they're in there and trying to get people to understand the true Islam and not this jailhouse Islam. I mean, it's something serious. So, alhamdulillah, the brother did a lot of that. And real quick again, 2 + 2? He was almost
2 equals salat. Let's go.
But it should is 2 + 2. All right, so yes. All right, so inshallah, maybe we will get back with you people on another time. So we're gonna go ahead and that's my neighbor calling me. So tell him to call him right back. Call you right back later. Okay, and inshallah, we'll see y'all later on. We're gonna go ahead and make salah and maybe get something to eat. Jazakallah khair. Thank you for joining us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I was giving them salam.
Shut up,
Oh, this guy. You got to mess it up, man.